Hello guys, welcome to this video. I'll be talking about how not to injure yourself. And as you've seen online, there has been some videos of arm breaks. So I'll be showing you how to just not break your arm. Okay, so first of all, we're going to be talking about side pressure. So side pressure is where you go directly to the side. Okay, like this, just to the side. So in proper arm wrestling, your hand must be inside of your shoulder. So as you see, my hand is inside of my shoulder, not outside. So if it's inside, I go down to the pad, there'll be a low risk for injury. However, if I go down and my arm starts going outside of my shoulder, that is very dangerous. Okay, so if your opponent puts pressure while your hand is outside of your shoulder, there's a very high risk for you to get a fracture in your humerus. And the reason for that is, in side pressure, your humerus is doing spinal rotation, and if it's outside your shoulder, then it would be in a lot of pressure, which would then break your arm. Another piece of advice is that you don't flop wrist. Flop wrist is where you lose your wrist. Instead of a cup, you go the opposite way. So in professional arm wrestling, they call this a flop wrist press, which in tournament or a match, it's good because you win. But against friends or against just a partner, if you're practicing, it can injure your tendons and ligaments in your wrist, which could stop you from training for months. So I would advise, if you don't flop wrist, and if that does happen, just give up, as it's a much safer option. Another move which is in arm wrestling, which is called a king's move, you might have seen someone like Devin Larratt use, which is where he loses his arm but not his wrist, and from this position he would go down where his arm is almost straight, but because of his bones and because he's been training arm wrestling for 20 plus years, he can't straighten his elbow out. So, but if you're a beginner and you do get into that position and your elbow does straighten, it could potentially injure your elbow. So I would recommend to stay away from king's move and stay to the basics, like top roll, hook, pretty much just those two, as they are the safer options for arm wrestling style. One last recommendation is a move called the press. So if you're in a press, which is just this, okay, if your opponent is very smart and you transition to a press, but your opponent uses side pressure to get your hand outside of your shoulder, and you still go for the press, your hand would be outside of your shoulder in this angle. Okay, so if you go for the press like this, that is very dangerous. I would recommend that if you do go for a press, you have to be 100% sure that you're going to win and that your hand is always inside of your shoulder. Okay, so like this, if you're going for a press. Okay, but if it's outside and your opponent takes it outside like this, it's much better if you just go back to starting position and go on from there. Okay, those are all the tips I have to not get injured in arm wrestling. Stay strong.